Okay, welcome back to Seeing Eye to Eye, a virtual reality podcast. Anyway, Matt, I have been getting into dancing games.
But like you're
I
actually
can't believe.
dancing. You're
Uh,
like
yeah,
I play Beat Saber, but I ain't like twerking, while
I'm
I'm
not
doing it.
twerking. No, I'm not. Well, no, I'm not twerking. No, but you
I,
know how like in our band, I was the singer, and I would actually get into it.
oh yeah, yeah.
Well, there's this game called Synth Riders where it's like Beat Saber, but it requires you to like dance, not dance, but like just move your hands to certain positions. But like I
I've seen
really get
videos.
into it. Like I'm not just like standing like a stick figure and just moving my hands boringly. Like I'm actually getting into it and I'm lunging and squatting. Like I feel like the game wants me to do. I would
So
say the same for Beat Saber.
you're gonna record some footage of you doing this, right? Like and put it
Oh
on our
yeah.
channel for
Oh
for
yeah,
all of
you
our
know me.
listeners and viewers.
I don't think it's gonna take off. I don't know if there's like an audience for me
I think if you
dancing and swinging lightsabers,
I
but
think if you did it right, like you have to have a persona. So like you can't be Alex.
I
Like you
know
got to
this.
be you got to be like Alex the I don't know what do you call those people? The Scottish dancer and then like you wear a kilt.
Yeah, I was just before we hopped on Discord, I was playing Rec Room with Trevor, and I was telling him I'm like, yeah, I got to become a character. I have to have a shtick. I need to like wear crazy clothes and look like a cartoon character.
I wonder if you could
I
get
don't
your
know.
own if you could like not maybe take like an avatar from like Oculus or something, but then like use it in like Beat Saber or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. I see a lot of people play as anime girls. I think it'd be cooler to do something different than that.
Okay, sorry, I was not listening. Real quick, everybody who is tuning in, the YouTube channel is up. It is Hats and Gloves Gaming, and or no, sorry, Hats and Gloves VR, and it will show up if you type it in on YouTube, which is amazing. Because before, I was getting like crochet hats and gloves.
Yeah, I don't know what you did, but we got like 7 subscribers already, which is like almost the same amount I have on my YouTube channel that's been up for like 2 years.
Yeah, um, those seven
Marketing us.
subscribers might be all my alternative accounts. No, I'm kidding. No, they are mostly real people.
Mostly.
But yeah, the thing with VR. So I was in VR chat the other night, and you know that Team Fortress guy who's like the big, burly guy with the orange shirt and he's bald.
Sure.
Well, he was just like eating chips over and over again, and all of a sudden I walked up to him and I was like, I'm gonna mute you, and then he started busting up laughing and he stopped. Anyway, we were talking about VR chat, and I said, hey, so tonight's like my third night in VR chat. So my question is, like, when do I start becoming like a waifu or a furry? And he started busting up laughing. He's like, yeah, that's a good question because you just described 80% of the avatars in here. But
What's your avatar?
it's a Spartan from Halo.
Nice, okay.
It's either
Nice.
that or it's Keanu Reeves from Cyberpunk 2077.
Really? That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Um all right, so that's like one of my stories. Oh, I met a Titan from Titanfall in VR chat, and we were talking about PC rigs.
You told me about this one.
Yeah, I
So like
told you about
what's
that one.
he was like an actual Titan or like a Titan pilot?
Like an actual Titan.
Was he
Like
big or was he like shrunk
he was
down?
big, and he was it was actually pretty cool. He said he was using Fruity Loops to rip and then play all of the sound files from BT, the character in Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was just like a project he was working on. So I'm assuming in the end what he's going to have is he's going to have an avatar that he can share with people that will have a soundboard included.
And he's just gonna walk around in VR chat and make people cry.
Okay, so he's a Titan, and so I said hi to him, and then he like got down on all fours and then opened up his face and let me crawl inside of him. And so I crawled inside of him and it actually worked. And then I was on top of him and I was freaking out. Yeah, that's it.
But have you played Titanfall 2, like the campaign?
A
I'm
very
telling
little
you, if
bit.
this man walked around as BT and started saying some stuff, I might start crying.
What? Oh, okay. Don't spoil it for me. I don't know. All I know is that there's a time to travel button. There's a dedicated like press X to time travel.
I think you can
Like,
only do it at certain times, but I don't remember. I only played through it once.
hmm.
What are we looking at
Yeah,
here?
I think you're
What was
right.
that?
I'm just clicking on our other videos
Oh,
just
okay.
to like artificially inflate our numbers.
Nice. Oh yeah, yeah. Keep doing that. Doesn't it only count it once when you click on it from an IP address though, or?
I'm sure. I'm just putting something up as B-roll for the OBS people. Well,
So,
we should probably get on with the show. Nothing wrong with some chit chat beforehand, but yeah, do you have anything else that you want to bring up before we jump? I want to jump into this first news story right away.
I mean, I hadn't really did anything super exciting this week, and the stuff I can talk about can come a little bit later.
Yeah, yeah, we have stuff in our notes that we
This
can.
news story is
Yes,
pretty
so
important.
let's get to this news story first because I'm going to title this episode basically this news story.
Yeah.
To try to get clicks.
Yeah. So PlayStation VR 2. Okay, hold on for a second though. You and I both watched the video where Sony announced it, and like he
Yes.
does this whole thing in the introduction where he's like building up to like announcing it for like, I don't know if it was like 30 seconds or a minute, but then he goes to announce it and you're expecting like he leaves like a pause like it's going to be so cool. And then he's like he's like and now we're unveiling
wait, let's
a
just watch it here. Let's just watch it.
Ultimate entertainment experiences to players.
Jack Ryan.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce the official names for our next-gen VR system, PlayStation VR 2.
like that pause.
Our
It was
next-gen
supposed to be
controller.
like dramatic, like now we're unveiling. You're expecting
Yeah.
something super cool. And he's just PlayStation VR 2, and I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah, are you
very.
familiar at all with Jack Ryan, the current president of PlayStation?
No, not
He's
really.
so like Phil Spencer with Xbox. He plays games, right? I feel like everyone kind of gets that. They know that. Jim Ryan, he's a businessman, which is fine. You know, it's totally fine.
I mean, the dramatic pause wasn't necessary.
PlayStation
Like
VR
if he
2.
if he would have said something cool, like they could, I don't
Like
know, the PS.
Project Morpheus.
Yeah, like yeah. I mean, I don't know. Call it Solid Snake Wear. I don't know,
No,
man.
oh,
But
they
like,
can't do that. They could do like Aloy
yeah, that's right. That's
Vision.
owned by Konami. Yeah.
Like
But
what's
yeah,
that?
like
What's that freaking Dorito chip that Aloy has on the side of her head?
they could have called it Horizon V2 or something.
Her
I don't know.
her
Well, yeah,
eye.
Horizon's probably taken by like Facebook now, actually.
Well, as we're about to see in this clip here, they show off Horizon, but we'll get to
Well,
that.
no, yeah, but I mean, like if you use the name Horizon as like a
Then the
VR headset, maybe that might
Forza
be an issue.
Horizon. Yeah, yeah,
Because Facebook has the metaverse and the Horizon.
yeah. Facebook is
Horizon.
trying to like coin capital M metaverse,
Yeah.
which I guess is fine because I don't. I've been like consuming a lot of VR, YouTube and podcast stuff, and like lowercase metaverse is still used for just all sorts of stuff like VR chat,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. No, I think we're gonna see a lot of like startup companies that are actually just scams trying to jump into this whole metaverse idea. But that's for another time. We need to talk about this PlayStation VR 2.
Yes. So this Reddit page that you found has the known specs.
Yeah,
Which first
yeah,
off,
that's why I brought that up.
let's just talk about this first off. So we don't see the headset at all. We see
Mhm.
some cool graphics of like 4K, foveated rendering, field of view, which these are great things to show, but we don't see the headset at all. And in this presentation,
Dude,
okay,
the
they show the
controllers are right
Sense
there, yeah.
controllers, but it
We've seen those already.
yes. In fact, if we wanted to get better pictures of these, I'd have to Google it real quick. But and this is really common for Sony. Sony has done this in the past with the PS4 and more recently the PS5, where before they show the box, they talk about it a lot and the name, and they act like the name's a big deal, and then they'll have Mark Cerny talk about it. So this is all par for course. In fact, before we see the headset, we could very well have a presentation with Mark Cerny, which again is fine. But
Do you think it's gonna come in white or black? I'm going white.
oh, I think it's gonna have. I think you need to look no further than the PS5's motif.
It's
For
gonna have
what
like
the headset's gonna look
horns
like.
coming off of it or something.
No, I don't think it's gonna have horns, but I think it's gonna be sleek.
I think it will be stylish.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be something. The PS5 is like a spaceship.
Yeah. Or like a man wearing a tuxedo with the collar popped.
Yeah, like the PS5. Have you seen one like in the store behind plexiglass?
No, I've literally only seen it in videos and pictures. You've seen an actual PS5? I thought they didn't exist and they were just made up.
Yeah, and at a couple stores, it's huge. It's unruly and like it's almost an eyesore for an entertainment system.
Compared to
But
like a PC tower, how big is it?
it's okay. It's not as big as a PC tower, but like the little horns and the way that it's wavy makes it take up more space than it needs to. So laying down flat, it has like a little circular disc. We should talk about VR. So here's some of the details that we know. Display method OLED, which is awesome. I'm spoiled by OLED. In fact, I'm thinking about selling my PC monitor because I use my OLED TV.
Well, I don't know if you know this. So all the like previous headsets, like the original headsets, were actually OLED. So like the original HTC Vive and the
original
Oculus
Quest.
Rift CV1 and the original Quest were all OLED.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved away from OLED, and I don't remember. It had something to do with like the pattern of RGB strips or something like that, like LCD. They could do more pixels or something. I don't remember, but the OLED provides like darker darks, and people have been saying if you can do OLED in a certain way, you can still get the high pixel count, like the higher resolution and all this stuff, and still get your dark blacks and everything. So
yeah, or there's quantum dot, which is a new TV term, and Linus Tech Tips has covered it a lot, where instead of being OLED, they just have like more subpixels or something.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is that like VR technology yet, or mostly being on?
I don't see why it couldn't be. The reason why it's popular in TVs right now is because it achieves something close to OLED while being cheaper than OLED.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, panel refresh rate, 90 hertz, 120 hertz. We'll talk more about that later. I have stuff to talk about that. Lens separation adjustable, so good. Here's a really good one right here. Field of view, 110 degrees. What do you know about this compared to other headsets?
I believe the Valve Index is like 117. Could be wrong on that, but
Wow.
it's not much smaller than the
Dude,
Valve
I want an
Index.
index.
And like, think about the Quest. The Quest is like 90, I want to say, or somewhere around there, and then the Reverb's like 98. So, I mean, obviously, we're all taking like putting on VR covers or whatnot, getting more out of our field of view, but that's quite significant compared to modern headsets that are at an attainable price.
What about what's the Quest 2 at? 90?
Yeah, it's like 90 something. It's pretty small actually. You'd be surprised. And I'm not even sure that that is accurate, because to me the Reverb and the Quest both seem to be very close, very very similar. So yeah, I would feel like I would notice a difference of 8 degrees, which is what it's supposed to be, is like 8 degrees between the Reverb and the Quest, but I basically don't notice a difference.
Okay, let's move along here. Motion sensor, 6-axis, gyroscopes and accelerometer. That's fine. Well, it's like this 6-axis is something that they've touted from the PS3. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
what now?
the proximity sensor, the IR proximity sensor, is actually very important, because the original PSVR was light based, which means they're using similar tracking now to Oculus. which was a very smart move because I think
Mhm.
that everybody needs to go over to IR eventually. The light-based tracking is obviously inferior,
Yeah. Is
and I can talk more about that here in a bit.
are
With
the
my
are Valve's lighthouses IR lasers?
yes, yep, they're IR as well.
Huh.
Yeah,
I wonder if in the future, like somebody will write a script that will make it so that if you just happen to own lighthouses, that your Quest 2 will have even better room tracking. Anyway,
that'd be interesting.
4 cameras for the headset and the controller, tracking IR camera for eye tracking. Okay. The
Yeah,
first part here, 4 cameras, that's like the Quest. But this
yeah,
this next part, tracking IR camera, is huge.
yeah,
Do you want to talk about this a little bit?
yeah. The eye tracking. I've known, like, I noticed, like, some people were talking about the social VR. You know, my thing. I don't necessarily care too much, I guess, for
Mm-hmm.
social VR right now, at least. But um, they did bring up a point, like, if you're looking at somebody across the room in like VR chat or something, they're gonna see that you're looking at them. You know what I mean? Versus like your head could
Yeah.
be pointing a different way than your eyeballs. So that is cool. But more importantly than that is the foveated rendering that they're going to be able to pull off of this.
Yeah.
Foveated rendering is going to take the resolution for what you're directly looking at, increase that resolution while lowering the resolution of everything you're not focused on. Essentially, almost working like peripheral vision in real life. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna, I read recently that Nvidia and Tobii eye tracking have been working together, and they saw a 60% increase in GPU like performance by using foveated rendering and headsets that supported it. So we're talking like substantial FPS boosts in
Mm-hmm.
these games, and a lot making things like the reverb or like some of those higher end like Pimax 8Ks and stuff like that. We're talking about actually making them relevant with modern day GPUs because people are having trouble running these things off of like 3080s and 3090s. So I think the PS5, like obviously being a machine that's not as powerful as something you could build with top of the line parts with a PC right now, this is very important. I think it's going to actually make the PS5 relevant in the VR space.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Also, foveated rendering is going to be huge for what do you call them? Standalone headsets like the Quest,
Oh yeah.
um, or future products that maybe Apple has in the works or that Valve has in the works.
Yeah, anything with like a mobile chip will definitely benefit as well.
Yeah, a lot. Moving on, there is vibration in on the headset. This is something that I believe was rumored. So this would give you haptics in the headset itself. So like if you're playing Thrill of the Fight, for example, if you get punched in the head, you'll get some haptic feedback on that.
This is actually very interesting to me because I think it could go one of two ways. It could be either really cool or people are going to turn it off right away depending on who they are. But
Yeah.
I almost feel like I have some experience with this. The reason being, and you've seen the reverb, it has the two mounted speakers on either side, right? Those speakers are actually pretty powerful, and if you turn your volume all the way up, which I don't recommend doing because those things get loud as heck. But if you
Mm-hmm.
turn it all the way up, it'll actually vibrate the headset with like whenever there's like a low bass, the whole headset will vibrate.
And
And
will you
when
like
you're
visually see like
No, no,
shaking?
no, you don't visually see it. You just feel it around the sides of your head where the
Mm-hmm.
speakers are. And when you're playing a game like Elite Dangerous or a flying game like I mostly felt it on Elite Dangerous because there's a lot of low bassy growls in that game, and it's actually really cool. So I think if they do this right, it'll be really really cool.
Okay, that does excite me as well. Huh. Yeah, and they're really into this haptic stuff, like with the Dual Sense, which you own a Dual Sense, but
Yeah.
not a PS5. Um,
Yeah, and I've only used the DualSense. There's only one game, as far as I know, at least that since I've cared to look. There's only one game that uses it on PC, and that is Metro Exodus. And I I explained to you when it first came out that it just kind of feels gimmicky on a DualSense. Like I don't. It
Well,
doesn't feel good to me
are you
to play a
talking
game
more
like
about
that.
the trigger
Yeah,
resistance?
yeah, yeah. The trigger resistance, which I believe we're not there yet, but these controllers are also supposed to have. Are we talking more like the actual like feedback, like the vibrations on the controller?
Yeah, that was talking more about like
Okay,
what Nintendo has with their HD Rumble,
okay. I
where it's
think that
subtle,
I
more
think the
precise.
DualSense has something similar
Hmm.
because I explained to you this too. When I'm playing Forza on my PS5 controller versus playing Forza on my PS4 controller, I feel like I can feel what the car is doing, like the connection the car has with the
Hmm.
road, more on the PS5 controller than the PS4 controller. There's like subtle vibrations and stuff that happen in certain points in my hands that tell me
Okay.
what the car
Well,
is experiencing.
here's an anecdotal example that I know because I've never played Astro's Playroom. But Astro's Playroom for PS5 is like a showcase for the DualSense. And there's a
Yeah.
portion where it's raining on Astro, and people claim that when they're holding the DualSense, it does give the impression of like raindrops. That's it. Which I can kind of imagine because I've had the Switch controllers, which they can do some pretty impressive stuff. So,
Hmm.
just have that in mind that people are happy with the rain effect. Now imagine that, but it's you have something that's just
On
for your
your head.
face. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's raining out, you know, you might actually feel like it's raining.
That could be very
Which I
cool.
know that the it's just going to be like right here that it's making contact with your face, but a little bit of haptic goes a long way.
Well,
I think you would agree.
it doesn't say just in the face though. Depending on the type of head strap they do and
Mm,
everything, it could go
yeah,
along the sides or even the back of your head as well. So it'll be interesting to see how
yeah.
integrated it is with the headset.
I
And
guess you're
also be
right.
interesting to see how heavy this headset is.
Better not be heavy, and it better not be that expensive.
I think it's going to be heavy and I think it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, I know. It's just like how are you going to compete with standalone headsets?
The only reason I think this is going to be heavy is some of these specs, or quite a few of these specs, are kind of similar to the Valve Index, especially the field of view. The field of view requires bigger screens, or at least a bigger headset to. Well, yeah, it would have to have bigger screens, right?
Is the Valve Index heavy?
From what I've heard, yes,
Oh,
it's heavy
okay.
enough that people actually buy weights to stick on the back. And mind you, it's not like a standalone headset. Like I
Yeah.
bought a kit for my reverb that also works on the Index, and it adds a top cushion to your head, and also came with a weight to strap to the back. The weight doesn't work on the reverb because when you put the weight on the reverb, it's extremely uncomfortable because it doesn't need the weight. On the Index, it needs the weight to balance the headset. I'm sure it's not
Hmm.
like from what I've heard, they did a very good job of like maneuvering the weight. But if you look up weights of different headsets, the Index is up there as a heavier headset.
Huh. Okay. I'll have to keep that in mind because I'm feeling the allure of the Index.
I wouldn't buy the Index.
Not now. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'm
So we
trying to
got
think if I had
USB
anything
Type C
else.
here.
Oh yeah. So I forget where I read this, but somebody brought up that the fact that it's USB Type C, some people are concerned that it might suffer with due to compression.
I'm
Does that make
confused
sense?
as yeah, I'm confused as why they aren't just using like HDMI out the back or something, or like
Yeah.
DisplayPort. Do they? I don't know if the PS5 has a DisplayPort input, but or output, but it's just I
Well,
don't know.
the PSVR one had that box,
Yeah.
and then I'm pretty sure that one of those two cords was it two cords going from the box to the headset?
It
Two
was like
cords.
the HDMI coming out from the PS4 and going into the box, then one of those cords was going to your TV and the other one to the headset, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want
Something
to
like
say
that.
that that was like HDMI data going from the box to your headset. I don't know. I'm sure somebody knows, but I don't. This USB Type C plug thing might cause compression. It might be relying on compression to send frames.
Is
Now,
it a proprietary USB-C? Like, is there something special about PlayStation's USB-C that's different? Are they able to transfer more data? Because if they're not, then they're going to be limited by the same data as everyone else, which means there is going to be compression, right?
yeah, presumably. But maybe Mark Cerny has some proprietary compression up his sleeves and it will look really good. I mean, theoretically, Type C should be able to deliver, I mean, a lot of data. You know, Type C, you can have like external PC parts not plugged into your motherboard, but they can act as if they are through Type C. That's how
Yeah, isn't
quick
like
Type C is.
Thunderbolt 4 that Intel's like releasing is Type C, isn't it?
I don't know. I know Type C is Thunderbolt 3 in that it's very capable.
I'm not
But
sure. I'm going to look that up. Because I literally just watched right before we started this podcast a video about Intel's new graphics cards, and they were talking about Thunderbolt 4, and it looked like it was a Type C cable.
it very well could be. Microphone, stereo headphone jack. Here's my question about the audio output. Is there not going to be downfiring speakers? Did the PSVR 1 have speakers?
I don't think so. I think it came with like a split
Earbuds.
earbuds or something like that. I don't think it had speakers built in.
That's unfortunate. I know that the Quest 2's headphones are not, or the downfiring speakers are not the best, especially if you're playing a more intensive game like Beat Saber or something with bass like VTOL or Synth Riders. But for just everyday use, it's fine, and especially for social things, the stuff that Facebook's working on, it works really well. Obviously, PlayStation has different ideas in mind, but it's upsetting that there's not that you have to plug headphones into the headset because another thing, look, when I had a PSVR, I had a PSVR 2 different times in my past, and it was very fun and exciting for the first month and a half. But then, like, there was a quick decline on how much got used and how it started to collect dust. And I feel like a part of that is headphones, right? There's all these little steps, right? Like when you get home from work or you have a day off and you're thinking about different things that you could do with your free time, and then you think about VR, there's all these little barriers to entry. And a device like the Quest 2, I mean, is it charged? Yes. Okay, then you just put it on your head.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I'm just afraid that, I mean, they're already going wired, which there's understandable reasons why they're going wired. Reasons which you and I have been struggling with, like router reasons. What do you think about? Do you have any thoughts about the headphone situation?
yeah. Um, First of all, as I'm just gonna touch on the wired thing for a minute. There's people out there, such as myself, who, while the wire can get in the way some of the time,
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing VR for so long and doing it with wires for so long that my brain almost pretends it's not there. And so it's one of those things I've noticed that like even like stepping over the cord when you're getting wound around it is happening subconsciously like
Mm-hmm.
into me now.
I can
Like
see
I don't
that.
even think about it. So for me a wired headset means absolutely nothing. However, audio is very, very big deal, and here's why. The other night I was playing Half-Life Alyx, and it was like maybe, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock. My wife was getting ready to go to bed. And, I'm playing it through the Quest 2 speakers. And my wife goes, "Hey, can you turn that down?" So I turned it down, but then because I turned it down, I couldn't hear it as well, because those speakers aren't like sitting right on your ears or anything. So I was like, huh, I bought that new VR cover headset. The whole point of that was so that I'd be able to use whatever headphones I want and I wouldn't have to worry about them conflicting with like a plastic band around my head or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw on my Steel Series, what I'm wearing right now, my Steel Series Arctic Pros,
Mm-hmm.
and I plugged them into the Quest to headset, and they didn't sound good. These headphones are the best headphones I've ever owned for PC gaming. Like, they sound amazing on my PC. But the moment I plugged them in my Quest 2, they sounded like tin cans. Like, it sounded like my audio was traveling through tin cans. And because of that, I feel like having built-in speakers, well, I mean, other than the comfort and basically the immersion factor that having built-in speakers provides, there's also the issue with compatibility. What if you have a nice pair of headphones, but you plug them in, they just don't work well with
Mm-hmm.
whatever device you're trying to use them with. So because of that, I would say that having some type of audio output built into the headset is extremely important. I also think it's very important to have it where it's almost as if it's not there. And the Quest 2, I think, does a good job of that, especially with the audio, like the way they're doing the audio, where it's built into like the strap almost.
Yeah.
It's impressive the quality of sound that they are getting out of that. Because I don't, I don't remember previous headsets I've had that had built-in audio that sounded that good, other
Yeah.
than the Reverb G2, which audio is it's the same audio that's on the Index, so of course it sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it works. It works well for spatial audio. Like, I was just playing Rec Room with my brother, and we were in a party, like an Oculus party, so we weren't getting that spatial left and right audio with our voices. It was just mono. But if we would have opted for app chat, or we weren't in a party, then when he was on my left playing paintball, it would have sounded like he was on my left. Yeah, I feel like a big problem with PSVR is that a lot of the headsets that have sold are not being worn frequently. And because they're not being worn frequently, um, game revenue is not being earned by Sony. Right. So in a lot of ways, the way that these companies make money is that they subsidize the cost on the device, and then they make revenue later through software sales. Um, Meta is definitely doing this with the Quest 2. The fact that the Quest 2 is $299 does not mean that it should be $299. It means that you're buying it for cheap, and then you're going to pay for software like Blade and Sorcery and Beat Saber, and then Meta is going to make money that way because they get a cut. Sony does the same thing.
Yeah, they all do the same thing.
And I've heard a lot of stories, and I think you would agree, that a lot of people who were really excited for PSVR and owned it for a while, like, it collected dust.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
mean, the interesting thing about the PSVR for me is I don't think it ever really collected dust. I eventually just was like, "There's better stuff out here," and I went and bought the Rift.
yeah.
And then once I bought the Rift, I was like, "I'm never touching the PSVR again." And then I think I sold mine to you or something like that.
Yep, yeah, you sold it to me. Um, and one of our later news stories is about the difference between console VR and then more open source or open VR. Okay. Controller specifications. There's not a lot here. They
So
have their
it does say that it has the trigger effect. So we're talking about the same trigger effect from the DualSense, right?
mm-hmm.
I think that, well, not right there. It would be the next one down. I think because the capacitive sensors are going to be like what the Oculus has, where you put your finger over a button and it detects that.
Okay.
But the trigger effect is important here because like I said, I felt like it was gimmicky when I was playing it with Metro Exodus on a
Mm-hmm.
DualSense. I don't think it would feel gimmicky in VR. I think in VR it would actually make sense. When I'm staring at a monitor playing a game, to me it
Mm-hmm.
just didn't work, you know. But and maybe it would be better on like a racing game or something like that. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. But in VR, I think it would work very well because
I
you're
would
already
agree.
trying to manipulate your brain.
Um, I would agree, and here's the reason why. Do you remember that stupid, like, Star Wars Connect game?
Oh yeah, the one with like dancing Han Solo.
Yeah, that had the dancing Han Solo. I'm Han
Yeah.
Solo. I'm Han Solo. Like, stuff like that. never made me want to do the moves. Like I would be like, but when I'm in VR and there's notes flying at me and synth riders, like I do it. Like I squat underneath the walls. I lunge past these doors that are flying past me, and it just works. And I've said this before, like making cardio fun, that's impressive, right? You can make fun of VR all day, but it's pretty impressive if you can make cardio fun. You
Hey,
know?
I agree, man. You have somebody like me who's, you wouldn't catch me dancing that Han Solo thing in a million years type thing. I'm like, you wouldn't, like, you won't catch me dancing for most stuff, but I'll start playing Beat Saber and like mid song, I'll be like, I'm moving my entire body to the
Or
beat of the
pistol whip.
music. Or Pistol Whip. Pistol Whip's a little more, I am literally out of breath, sweating, and dying right now.
Yeah.
But still, but Beat Saber, I've like last night I found myself, I was like, dude, I'm actually like dancing to this song while I'm like playing Beat Saber. And like it's weird too because the more you like get into it, the more you like dance and get into it and like just let yourself go, the better you do. Like
Yeah.
absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I like back when I used to play Rock Band and Guitar Hero, I would like jam out with the music. And when I'm playing Beat Saber, I have to be careful that I don't. I tend to walk forward slowly because I'm like sidestepping, and I'll end up like inching forward. So I have to every now and then I'll glance at my feet to where it has the little footprint
Yeah.
icons.
You
Okay.
ever thought about buying one of those like VR mats? Or
Um,
like just getting a little foam pad and putting it underneath your feet so you know like if your
I
feet
don't
leave that
know.
foam pad, you're kind of no.
I don't know.
I mean, you can get
Maybe
'em pretty cheap. You can buy like these little kindergarten like pattern, puzzle
that. Yeah,
pieces that you put
that's
together.
what I would get. I would
Yeah,
either get
exactly.
green ones or just like black ones,
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
but probably green ones that they could go with the mixed reality. Face or not Facebook, but Sony showed off Horizon with this trailer here. Did you have any thoughts about this
It was pretty disappointing. It didn't. They didn't show anything as far as
gameplay?
yeah, gameplay goes. This is all CGI. So we
I
didn't
don't
see.
know. I don't know.
You don't think it is?
I don't know. I mean, if watching it again, it does like the camera. If you look at the framing of the, sorry, the framing of the camera, it's like a little juddery, almost like it's being head tracked. And if you look closely, of course, it's you're watching it through Discord, but it does look a little soft, like VR does. Looks a little soft.
Regardless, we didn't see anything as far as gameplay goes, which is
Sure.
disappointing. And I'm also not a fan of the Horizon series,
Hmm.
so it's just not. I get like Horizon's like a system seller for PlayStation right now, but I didn't really think I'm gonna get like flamed for this, but I didn't really think the first Horizon was all that great. I thought it was pretty generic, run-of-the-mill open world game that had pretty graphics.
Yeah.
The bow combat against dinosaurs was cool, especially when you got later in the game. Like I played the full game. Like I gave the game a hard chance, okay? Like I didn't like it and I continued to play it all the way to the end to make sure that like I didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I didn't like just play it for an hour and quit. Um the bow combat towards the end when you have like a lot more, I don't remember if it was like different types of arrows or whatnot, but I remember thinking towards the end I was like, wow, you're fighting like these bigger dinosaurs, like this is getting cooler. But it wasn't to the point where I was like, oh yeah, like this is amazing or anything. It was still a pretty generic run of the mill open world game to me. So I don't know. I have hopes that maybe they're gonna do it better. And also, bow games and VR are freaking awesome anyways. So I have a feeling that this could be very cool. But we'll
Hmm.
have to see what they do. I can imagine in my head scenarios where this would be very cool. You can have, you climbing things, like shooting maybe get like a grappling hook or something up onto like a giant dinosaur and then like flying through the air and firing bows and stuff. But the problem with that is a lot of the bigger companies that make VR games try to make them playable for everyone. Half-Life Alyx is a great example of that. Boneworks has more physics-based combat and more things that they are allowed because they chose not to go that route to make it comfortable for everybody. And
Mhm.
while I agree that they should have the option to make it comfortable for everybody, I think there should be options where if I want to go flying through the air while shooting bows at robotic dinosaurs, like I can do that or something, you know? That's just my take on it. I hope it's not like that, but
I don't think this is going to be that game. Um, but I do think that it's going to look really good. So
oh
it's
yeah.
being made by Gorilla and Firesprite, I think is the other developer.
What'd they make? Well, that name sounds
Firesprite.
familiar.
I don't know. We can look them up real quick. This is great radio.
Yeah, I wanted to say Fire Sprite. Did they make that one shooter?
Games developed. The Persistence. Star Citizen. What?
They must have like helped. The Persistence though, okay. That's not what I was thinking. I was thinking that one shooter that's like Rainbow Six, but that was somebody else then.
They made the Playroom VR. They made Run Sackboy Run, which is like a mobile game.
The
Okay, so
Persistence is supposed to be good though.
I don't even know what that
Well,
is. I can't
I
even
guess it
click on
depends
it.
on who you talk to or whatnot. The Persistence is I don't even know how to explain it. It was only played with a controller if I remember right. Like there's no motion controls. It is on Steam as well as PlayStation
Oh,
now.
it's a VR game.
And it's like, yeah, it's a VR game. And it was like you're like on a derelict ship or something with like zombies kinda. That was kind of what I gathered from it. It is on Steam though, and I have thought about buying it many times. So I will pick it up eventually because I do want to play it. It's got like mixed reviews, and I don't understand why. I've looked at the game. I
Okay.
even played the demo once.
Well, it doesn't really matter in this case what they've done in the past. I know
Yeah.
it's always fun to look at developers and like the DNA that crosses over from game to game, but because this is being backed by Sony's pocketbook, Firesprite could make a game way more of an endeavor than the Persistence.
So do
There's
you
a,
think?
there's other examples of that in the gaming industry, of where a
Do you,
smaller dev company gets boosted by first party and then makes a crazy game. Sorry,
whoever
go ahead.
made Days Gone? That's a good example of that right there. No, do you think that
Bend.
they
Yeah,
will?
so the game that Bend made before Days Gone was Uncharted on the Vita.
Oh,
And then
really?
before that it was Siphon Filter.
I've heard of them.
You can hear my heater going, but I think it's going to be okay. It's really not that annoying.
So do you think that Sony will end up bringing these VR games to PC? They're
Um,
already doing it
yeah,
with their flat screen
it's a good
games.
question.
Hitman 3 was a PSVR exclusive. That's now coming to PC next month.
Whoa, I
Possibly,
didn't know that.
possibly next month. It's supposed to be February 2022, but I haven't heard an actual date, so I'm not sure if it's actually coming or if they're going to delay it.
Well,
Um,
Horizon came to PC,
yeah.
and Horizon is like that's a Sony game, and
hmm
God of War is going to come, and that's another
hmm
Sony game.
yeah, I think that releases this year.
Death Stranding came to PC, but Death Stranding was like a second party game,
I
not
really want to see
really a
Demon
first party
Souls
game.
too. Demon Souls, that'd be pretty
Yeah.
sick.
Well, you're probably gonna have to wait.
I'm fine with waiting though. That's the thing. Like PlayStation can do their timed exclusives as long as like they bring some of them to PC. I would really like to see them bring VR to PC though because that's the smaller market, you know. The smaller market's the VR and you
That's
bring
a good point.
these to PC, it's just going to sell more headsets in the end and it's just going to grow VR more. It's going to make our
Yeah.
community bigger. So I think that them bringing it to PC will actually be kind of important in the long run for VR, just to
This
make it more accessible.
this game looks beautiful on my OLED TV with all the dynamic range of like the robot blue eyes and the lit tree branches but the dark shadows. This game was made for a nice TV.
And see, that's another thing. So they mentioned 4K HDR, and I've never, in the talks that I've seen people discuss HDR and VR, they've said stuff like, well, if you have a game that supports HDR. Obviously, no headsets support that right now, so just turn it off or something like that if it's like a flat screen game and you're using Vorpex or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about them bringing something like HDR into a VR headset? Do you
Oh,
think it's going to make a
I
big
think it's
difference?
huge. I'm a huge fan of HDR. Um, and the fact that it's OLED screen really makes me happy because a lot of TV manufacturers will slap the letters HDR on their box, and that doesn't really mean that the effect is going to occur with that cheaper TV. Um, just because your TV or your display can accept HDR data doesn't mean that it's going to have the horsepower to pump it out to our eyes.
Yeah,
But
kind of like my cheap Samsung.
yeah, yeah, it's a whole basically it's a scam. Really, there should be a standard for that HDR insignia, just like how there's a standard for the HDMI insignia. It's like an actual
Yeah.
logo. Um, that would be awesome for like me to do a deep dive video on what happened with HDR. But anyway, doesn't apply here because we're talking about an OLED screen. So presumably the HDR is going to look good and is going to work and be really bright and really dark. I think it's great. The in my Quest 2, there's dark scenes like in The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners where it's supposed to be dark and it's not. It's more just dull. And not because there's fog in the game, but because the Quest 2 doesn't get very black.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
it's
and
okay because
I've
the
noticed
Quest
the
2
same
is
a
a
similar thing.
pretty affordable device. But
Now,
as far as immersion goes, I think it's a big deal. But it's not like required. It's more like icing on the cake. I would say
fair.
the FOV is also like icing on the cake. Or like, if you're at a ski resort and you're wearing ski goggles, your FOV is limited. But that doesn't mean that you don't feel like you're at the ski resort. You know.
Yeah. I would say that FOV is probably more akin to something like a high frame rate or the difference between like 2K and 4K or 1080p and 4K because it's one of those things where you don't know what you're missing until you've actually used it. And that's what I've heard from other user experiences because I've never had technically the Reverb G2 is the highest FOV headset I've had, and I don't even feel like that FOV is that big.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you had something like the Index or a Pimax 8K, which has a ridiculous FOV, if you had something like one of those, going back to a headset that had like 90 FOV would actually hurt. Like it would actually, you would be like, nah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that would be the case or not, but I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking in my head about it. Now, the thing about HDR that gets me and what you were expressing with bright brights and dark darks. Dark darks are great. Bright brights, on the other hand, and I'm sure you've experienced this with the Quest, they get n- they get converted into God rays through the lenses,
Oh.
and so it's very important the type of lenses that are in the headset.
Do we
Now,
know what
most
kind of lenses the PSVR 2 will have?
I don't know if that was in the spec page or not.
I
I don't
don't
think
think it
so.
was.
But the thing
Ah.
is, most of the headsets nowadays are using Fresnel, is
Fresnel.
that what?
Yeah.
Yeah, lenses, and that
And there's pancake
s-
lenses, right?
from what I've heard, Valve is basically the leader off of these lenses. Like they make the best lenses, the best Fresnel lenses that are made right now. Pancake lenses are what we want to go to apparently, from what I've heard. And a lot of the higher end headsets, like some of those, I can't even think of the names because a lot of them are just now like, gaining traction and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these like higher end, like $2,000-$3,000 headsets are using like these pancake lenses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see what PlayStation chooses. But from my understanding, the pancake lenses are like not as cheap to make or something like that. So We'll have to see because it'll be interesting. HDR is going to create what I imagine it will create more of a God ray issue.
You're exactly right. You are exactly right. Because and you described it earlier just fine, but as far as I can tell, what's really causing that God ray to happen is high contrast brightness,
Yeah.
which is something. Here we go with Nintendo again, but like on the 3DS, you would have little ghosting artifacts only in high contrast areas. So if there was a light, like a little ball of light with darkness around it, you'd see ghosting.
Yeah.
That might be for different reasons, though.
So it'll be interesting to see what type of lens they go with. That's one of my important questions about it. Is there's a lot of things that like they showed off some really cool specs, but there's a lot of things we don't know about it. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I almost like before they announced it, like we knew it was coming, but before they announced it, I was really hoping for a wireless headset that could also act as a standalone headset and that had some type of proprietary technology that wi- wirelessly connected itself to the PS5. That would have been sick, but it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like with the specs they're going with, I can't imagine them selling that headset, the headset that I had in mind for cheap. And with the specs they're going with, I can't imagine this headset's gonna be cheap. If I
Yeah,
had to put a
I
sticker
just
on
feel
this, I would
like
say it's gonna be $499, and that's with them subsidizing with software sales.
so crazy because really, when you're talking about like parts, there's not a chip. I mean, unless there is this compression thing happening. But like really there's not a chip in the headset. There's displays. Oops. There's lenses, there's plastic and metal, but there's no chip, right? Like there's barely maybe I'm maybe I'm out of my depth here, right? But there's not a Snapdragon chip
Yeah, there's not like a
in
processor, is what you mean.
PSVR.
Now, I don't know though, because they're using this USB Type C. Do they have to have a processor to do that? See, this
Yeah.
is outside my realm of
Yeah.
understanding, but my only understanding is I'll break this down caveman style. Quest 2, use USB-C compression,
Yeah.
Snapdragon. I'm assuming PlayStation's gonna have to do something similar. Maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Maybe my understanding of Type C and
No, I
everything
think I
is
think you're
off.
on the right track there. But I still feel like you're just making it hard for this stuff to take off. I just don't understand why it's so expensive for headsets that aren't standalone. I know R&D, obviously, you're you're making something that there's not that many things of. It just seems crazy
Well, if you
for
really want
something
to
that
get
doesn't have a
into
chip in it.
if you really want to get into the price of Facebook's headset, it's not just about the software sales though. They are gathering data from you. I don't I've read some things that said that they can't really like monitor like your room obviously through the cameras or something because there would be a performance hit to the chip itself.
Mm-hmm.
But they are going to measure the data of what you're looking at as far as like in their stores, their shops, what you're clicking on when you explore, like when you click the little
Mm-hmm.
explore icon, what catches your eye, what do you stop at, what do you click on, and how long do you view that product for, that software for? They're gathering all that type of information for
Yeah.
for certain,
I
and
mean, well,
using
Valve could
that to
easily be gathering that information on
oh,
Steam.
they are no, they are.
And Valve's like
I
the
know
the
they are.
nicest company ever.
I literally go, well, I mean, yeah, but Valve's still a company, so they're still doing the same thing. And
Right.
I'm not saying that this is a bad thing either, because I I personally believe that targeted ads are kind of a good thing because who wants a non-targeted ad? Like the other day, Megan said they gave me a Nissan Armada as my first rental, which is this huge SUV, and Megan and I both hate that thing, and we said we both hate it. Like we hate it so much. And on Megan's phone on Facebook, she started getting commercials for Nissan Armadas. So like I get that that
So
was
it,
kind of
it
a
didn't
targeted
work.
ad failure, but my point is that that was bad targeted adding. And like I would rather see an ad for something that I want to actually purchase in the first place, if that makes sense. So to me, that's fine. Like I even tell
Yeah.
Steam, like I'll go in there, I'll be like, don't recommend me this type of game, or don't recommend this game ever again, type thing. So I set up Steam to know what I like because I want it to only show me things that I like.
Yeah. Well, I think that the smart targeting is on its way. And to answer your question with like why would I want not targeted ads or I would want targeted ads, right? I think the answer to your question lies in the future when it starts getting good and we start feeling a little weird about it. But for now it's like semi good and it's like, "Oh, that's cute. They gave me a Nissan ad. It's cute
Yeah,
today." I think people are concerned about.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Now I did read somebody that said a very interesting way that Facebook could track your data in the Quest 2. They said when you do your room setup, the data that the headset gathers for the room setup could technically be stored to one of Meta's Facebook servers. And then they could use like an AI algorithm or something like that to search that initial room setup picture to search for like primary brands in your household and then try
Mhm.
to advertise those brands more to you, or
Yeah.
sell that data to those brands to then target you
Yeah.
as
Like
the
I
consumer.
know it's black and white footage, but I have a Switch OLED with like black and white Joy-Cons. So it would like be able to see that. Be like, "Oh, he has a Switch."
And once again, I've
Obviously.
already given my opinion right now on targeted ads. I don't even think that's really that big of a deal, but I do understand people's privacy concerns with it, and the fact that if if this is a big if they are actually holding pictures of your room or something to target ads at you, I get that that would be a little Orwellian, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big if.
The whole VR goggle thing is Orwellian.
Yeah, but it's great.
I wanted to touch upon one last thing here with the controllers. So right here, battery type, built-in lithium ion rechargeable battery. I just I'm over it. I mean, I don't know how long or for how long you were an owner of Move controllers, but it was common for me to hear about people owning Move controllers and how they would just die all the time. And then for the Move controllers, you had to use a mini USB, not a micro, but like the older mini style USB.
Yeah, I think I
And
remember
so you
that.
had to find one of those mini USB cords laying around your house. And then when you found it, you only found one, but you had two controllers to charge, and they died quicker than they should because maybe they were hand-me-downs from the PS3 era. And I know I'm painting a whole picture here, but that's the point, is that these lithium ion batteries age and then they become basically e-waste after a while. And I know regular disposable batteries are e-waste as well unless you recycle them. But I don't know. I was looking at rechargeable double A's for the Rift. Um I was watching a YouTube video about how to improve Beat Saber performance by Nacy, I think her name is. I think I'm pronouncing that right? Naysy. Anyway, she was saying how you want to make sure that your AA batteries are at least 1.5 volts, because the Rift, not the Rift, sorry, the Quest 2's controllers call for 1.5 volts. And then so I typed that into Amazon and I started to find all sorts of batteries like what you're seeing here. So are you seeing what's going on? These are AA batteries that have little USB-C ports on them.
Yeah.
See
Yep.
that? And
Um,
they're very common. There's so many types and they're not necessarily expensive compared to like Duracell.
there's actually so I have a lot of battery knowledge thanks to the Reverb G2. Um, there is
Really?
some yeah, there is some things you need to know about rechargeable batteries. First of all, I think it was Tyrell Woods did a video on like great accessories for the Quest 2, and one of them, I think it was Tyrell Woods. he had a video of, I think it's Kiwi's new controller grips, and they
Hmm.
actually have a slot that comes off the controller grip, so you actually leave the back of the um, the controllers off when you put these grips on, and then you pull this slot off the grips to expose the batteries. And he pointed out that if you get some USB-C, is that a recent? Yeah, so this is probably the one I watched. If you plug in, or if you pull that out and you get these batteries, yep, those batteries right there, then you
Oh,
can
these
just
grips look
literally,
awesome.
yeah, and it has a little door that accesses the, so you never have to remove the grip itself. It has a little door right here, yep, and they just plugs directly into the battery. So he never has to remove the battery, never has to remove the
Yeah.
grips. That is freaking awesome.
I want to get these grips. I think it was Thrill Seeker, who is another really good YouTuber. I've been watching his videos on full body tracking. But he has these Kiwi commercials for these grips all over, and they look nice. Like I have grips here. I'm actually gonna grab them real quick because I'm on video, and it's fun to just do a little show and tell.
But yeah, I don't I got the Mammoth grips, and I'm glad I got those because they work on both the Quest 2 and the Reverb. But at the same time, I look at these Kiwi grips, I'm like, those are nice.
Real quick, I'm gonna stop advertising him so much. I have these AMVR is what it is.
Oh yeah, I've heard of the brand.
The nice thing about these is that you have to get this party started, you have to remove the little battery door. There's a little thing that prevents you from removing this. So the nice thing about these is that it's a replacement shell, so that you do not need to put like a silicone cozy over your controller, which is something I preferred. You might prefer the silicone thing.
I was gonna say I like the grip that the silicone stuff provides, but that's pretty cool. As the door and everything.
Yeah, like back in the Wii days, I preferred not having the Wii jacket.
Really, I like that too. I like
Let's
that
call
Wii
it
jacket.
a Wii jacket, which is the official Nintendo terminology. But this strap is it's nice. It's like a faux leather, and then it has like a little stretchy hairband
Yeah.
there, which is useful. Anyway, those Kiwi grips look even cooler because they have a more intuitive like strap adjustment method, and then also you can see it here, like this is all extra bulk. This is extra stuff to hang on to, which if you're playing Beat Saber or other sword games, you might move your hand down,
Yeah.
right, and take your finger off the trigger so that it's like you're holding bats or swords.
Yeah.
I like these Kiwi things. I might.
Dude,
Oh, they're expensive. Holy cow, they're $58.
I mean, you're paying for quality, right?
Yeah, but if I
I don't
if I
know,
just
man.
save them.
I picked up the Mammoth grips, right? And they have kind of like it's not really rubber, it's more of a plastic shell, right? And then they have what's like almost like a shoestring method to make the actual like band that goes over the top part of your hand, with Velcro that goes over those. Um, I paid $25 for them, and they're like the best grips I've had. And I've had grips for the Rift S as well. I don't think I ever bought grips. I don't think I ever bought grips for the Rift or the original Rift, the CV1. But
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture that you sent me, which I know doesn't help our listeners, but okay. Let's move on. We are in an hour right now.
do you want me to talk about the batteries? Because I do know a lot about these batteries. I know a lot about. I know too
Yes, but
much.
real quick before I forget, I just want to say if you've made it in this far, thank you for watching. And please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, which
And
again
podcasts.
is Hats and Gloves VR. At the time of recording this, we are not up on podcast sites. But I'm going to have the podcast up soon. So if this is a dated video, the podcast is technically called Seeing Eye to Eye, a virtual reality podcast. So anyway, please subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast, and consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts because that will help us with the rankings. What do you know about these
And just
batteries,
doing
man?
better. So, I've done a lot of research on the different types of rechargeable batteries, mainly because the Reverb G2 is the same way. The whole reason why they need to take 1.5 volt at least for these rechargeable batteries is because a standard non-rechargeable battery is 1.5 volts. A normal rechargeable battery comes at 1.2 volts.
Yep.
And a specialized rechargeable battery comes at 1.5 volts or higher. Scroll back up right there for a second. So go down to that one right there at the very bottom right. See how it says I don't know what it is. NIMH
Yep.
NIMI NIMA.
Yeah.
That so those types of batteries, there's two different types that I've seen you can buy. There's probably more, but there's two different types that I saw recommended for the Reverb, and I'm sure this is going to apply for the Quest now that I know that it runs 1.5 as well. You have Li-ion or Li-ion, some lithium ion basically, but I think they
Uh-huh.
shorten it. And then you have this Nimir, whatever this is,
Nickel.
whatever the nickel, yeah, whatever this is. Um,
Nyeh.
the difference is that these ones, uh, they they're heavier and they die sooner. So
Yeah.
they have less of a
Heck yeah.
charge cycle,
Need to give me some
and
Nimmer.
they start dying faster. The lithium ion batteries are lighter weight and they have a longer charge. They have more charge cycles to them, so they have a longer lifespan. The only negative really to the lithium ions are they're technically more dangerous. They're actually I don't think that a normal consumer is going to run into this issue unless you're really messing around with your stuff. But they are technically like more flammable or something like that. They're more prone to having issues with a fire.
Yeah, with
But
temperature or
I
being
think you really have
punctured.
to be screwing around with it. I've had
Mm-hmm.
mine for
Sure.
over a year, and I just unplug them every time they're fully charged. I don't let them overcharge or anything like that,
What
and
about
they
volts
still work
though?
great.
Does
You mean
the
like for rechargers?
no, like do my Quest 2 controllers benefit from having a 1.5 volt as opposed to 1.3 or lower?
I don't know about the Quest. However, with the Reverb G2, if you run 1.2 volts, it puts the controllers themselves into what's called low power mode, which is the same mode they go into when your batteries start to get low. And they
Okay.
actually, and you know, it's light
Okay.
based tracking, they actually emit less light and do it at a
That's
slower frequency.
that's what I was thinking. Okay.
So it might do the same thing on the Quest. I'm not sure. But I know with the
I
Reverb, you can
reckon
actually go like 1.5, 1.6. I don't know if they make them higher than that. Um, but yeah, you can go higher. So I would say 1.5 volts lithium ion batteries are gonna be your safe bet. Like they're gonna work.
okay. Well, I'm going to keep browsing around, but I'm probably going to get something like this.
And I have the EBL 3000 mAh rechargeable batteries. They're like red ones. And the ones I bought them in an 8-pack because you need 2 per controller for the reverb. So they came. Yep, they're right there. That's what
With
I
the
bought.
charger?
Yep.
What? Hmm. Do I need
Yeah.
a charger? I already have a rechargeable battery charger.
You have to have a special one for 1.5 volt batteries.
Uh,
You can't use like a 1.2 volt rechargeable battery charger with a
okay,
1.5
these are
volt
triple
battery.
A's. I want double A's. Well, the other thing is at this point I should get like the USB-C ones.
Oh no, I would agree. If I would have known that those existed at the time, I would have got those.
Just just for the convenience factor. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get back to that later. Let's move on because we are going a little late. I guess not really. This is fine. I decided to put this news story in here. Meta reportedly canceled a 300-person VR AR operating system project. This is written by Alex Castro over on The Verge. It came out on January 5th, so yesterday.
first.
Meta reportedly pulled the plug on a custom operating system that was supposed to power upcoming virtual and augmented reality headsets, although its full reasoning and future plans still aren't clear. And the company has denied its scaling back its overall OS efforts. The project was called XROS, named after XR, which is an umbrella term for AR and VR, in November. So basically, they were working on a proprietary OS system, and they've canceled that. I want to read a little bit more down here. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and CTO Andrew Bosworth have discussed publicly before. In June of 2021, Zuckerberg described making a, quote, microkernel-based operating system that would give Meta tight control over every layer of its hardware, saying a team was, quote, pretty far along on the initiative and pegging its existence to, quote, the not-so-distant future. There's no sign that canceling XROS will affect Meta's plan to produce new AR glasses, which include prototypes known as blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this doesn't affect their hardware, things that they're developing, but as far as their software, they've canceled this proprietary OS, which my response is good. Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
Because so the Quest 2 was an impulse buy for me. I was at work. I was listening to a podcast. The Oculus Quest 2 got brought up. And I thought, yeah, I want me one of those. So I went home and I started doing some research, and everything was good. All the research I did was good. They doubled the storage capacity. What else? You could connect it to your PC, and it was pretty good. You could connect it to your PC wirelessly, and it was pretty good. And then the last thing that I checked was, could you do things like custom Beat Saber songs on the Quest? And my initial thought was, no, probably not, right? Because the Quest is like a little console. But the answer was yes. And the reason is because, as I'm sure many of you know, the Quest currently runs on a form of Android, as opposed to a Meta-owned OS. And because of that, we currently have access to things like App Lab and SideQuest, which allow you to install and run uncompleted games or demos or tests or projects without jailbreaking your device or voiding your warranty. And that's awesome. That's freaking awesome. And I will be very unhappy if that goes away. So here's another thing to consider. We were just talking about PlayStation VR. PlayStation VR is a decent product. It does what it promises to deliver. Like its console that it's attached to, which is it just works, right? That's the good thing. But the bad thing about PSVR is that there's a lot of stuff you can't do. One of which being custom Beat Saber songs. Just cannot do it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with all this. Just because Android, at least what they have right now, is like a semi-open source or it's open to some, foreign programs or whatnot. Whereas I think what they were going towards, they were trying to make it so you couldn't do that type of thing, or they were going to try to make it so you can't do that type of thing. And maybe they realized with the amount of people that use like App Lab or SideQuest or something like that, that like they don't want to restrict people. Maybe that's them doing something in good faith. I don't know, but it's a good thing for everybody except for maybe the people who got like laid off or whatnot from that project.
Well, I don't know if this suggested that they got laid off, but that they just canceled the OS project. Yeah, I mean, your product is selling like hotcakes right now. The phone app that is required to set up a new product was the top phone app during Christmas, right? Not the Nintendo Switch app, not the Fortnite app, your app. Don't don't be a party pooper.
Yeah.
Meta. And also, a majority of your customers are not going to touch SideQuest. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
but some are.
the whole Quest 2 having the capabilities it does to attach itself to a PC and to do all that stuff, that's really for the people like, you or me, or probably even the people like
Yeah.
listening to this podcast.
Enthusiasts.
Yeah, like people who are gonna want to tinker with these devices and try to push them to their limits. Um, a majority of people are probably just going to go on, use it like a console, They're going to buy it, they're going to start playing with it, they're going to go onto the store, they're going to buy the games that are available. They're not going to side quest or app lab games until they're fully available on the Quest, So, no, I completely agree. And I don't think they're really losing much by keeping it open. Like, how would they be negatively impacted by you going and getting Lambda 1 and playing it on your Quest? You know what I mean?
Well,
not really,
the obvious answer to that is pirated games.
Fair, but have we seen pirated games yet?
I don't know.
As far as
It's a good question.
As far as like Lambda 1, you still have to buy. I guess you could pirate it onto your computer, but Half-Life 1's such an ancient game anyways. You pay up for like $1 or $2.
Yeah,
I don't mean ancient. It's still a great game, but
I paid $2 for it.
yeah,
It was on
exactly.
sale.
So like who you get what I'm saying though? Like who's gonna like go and pirate that game? And like I get Facebook's not making money off of you doing that, but you're still using their device.
Well, it's also
They still have
because
you.
Meta now owns Beat Saber, and Beat Saber doesn't really want you to buy or want you to install custom songs. It would rather that you purchase song packs.
That's true.
So it's
They came out with
reasons
that,
like that.
They came out with that Lady Gaga pack, and I was like, couldn't you just download like most of these songs, like a custom-made version of most of these songs, probably?
Yeah.
So, but some people, there's plenty of people that aren't gonna want to do that.
Which I
They
have.
would rather pay the money for the convenience, and I agree. Like
Right.
paying money for convenience is a real thing. I do it all the time.
Yeah. And I understand why Lady Gaga wants to receive royalties for Beat Saber. And I understand that, it's good to pay artists. But you know what? I became a fan of all sorts of artists because they were featured on Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And then I I became fans of them, and then I would buy CDs. Like for me, it was The Fall of Troy. They had a song on Guitar Hero, and I know that's one of our favorite bands. But if you meet another Fall of Troy fan out in the wild, then what they'll tell you is the same story that you or I have, which is, yeah, I heard that song on Guitar Hero, and then I got into their whole discography and I bought some CDs. It's the same story. It all goes back to Guitar Hero. So, again, I understand that it's good to reimburse artists for their songs, but I kind of have this like little opinion piece that I've been formulating in my head, which in summary is that what having your song on a video game level really is, more than anything else, is free advertising. Here's why. Because people are going to hear your song. But unlike in a movie or a Disney Plus show or in the background in a Grand Theft Auto game, unlike any of those situations, in this situation, the person is really trying to listen to your song because they're playing Beat Saber or Guitar Hero or Synth Riders. And they're really trying to figure out the beats of your song and what makes your song good. That's like the best, most like mind bug marketing that I could ever think of, right?
Yeah.
Is slicing bricks to the beat of your art. that's kind of like really good advertising. And honestly, I feel like you could make, I'm not going to make the argument, but you could make the argument that these artists should be paying Beat Saber. They should be lining up. But hey, all right, let's move on. That's not a hill I'm going to die on or anything. It's just, it's one of my little spitball ideas. This is a tweet I saw from Nathy a few hours ago. He says, and
This
he got
has me
this
really
from
disappointed.
he got this from Martin uh,
Risby?
Risby VR on Twitter. Gave him the heads up. Nathy on Twitter says, so it seems like Stormland has been pulled from the Oculus store. You can no longer buy it, but can confirm that it can be installed. Maybe the contract with Insomniac Games has expired, or they did it because the servers became a ghost town. Interesting. And you know what's interesting is that you were trying to convince me to buy this game a week
2 days ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
2
was
days ago.
not long ago.
Yeah,
No,
this is
I
the
didn't even
problem
mean
with digital games.
I didn't even mean like right now. I just was like, hey, at some point we should get Stormland because it's a co-op game that, from what I've heard, is kind of similar to like the Far Cry idea, where you go to an area and you like uh, liberate like a camp or whatnot, but you're robots and stuff. So this game had always interested me. It kind of got mixed reviews, I think, when it first came out, but as you can see, it's like 4.5 stars out of almost 2,000 ratings, so it's pretty good rated game. I never got to play it, and now I'm sitting here wondering, am I going to get to play it? Like, am I ever going to get to play it? And I'm not one that advocates piracy, but when there is no other method to access software, that is when I agree that piracy is okay. This would be one of those things where if in like 6 months to a year from now you can't access the software, I'd be half tempted to try to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's gonna have a copy of it, you know. And
So
if they're not gonna sell it, then what else are you gonna do?
yeah, I mean, if it's a sticky situation,
It
but
is.
you could imagine that 12 months out, you'd have some people at Insomniac. If they were sitting in front of you, they'd be like, "I'd pirate it. Hey, that's my art. It's
Yep.
just sitting behind a digital vault."
The
Was
thing
this
is, who owns the rights to Stormland? Does Meta actually own the rights to Stormland, or does
was it
Insomniac own the rights?
Rift
Be-
exclusive?
it was. It was. And it
Then it might be
and if they pulled it, but
Oculus.
if they pulled it off the store, like why can't Insomniac in the future, put it up on Steam or something? That would be my hope. My hope would be
Yeah.
that we see Stormland reemerge as either it comes out on Steam or they pulled it from the Rift store and they're about to release it on the Quest store. That would actually be annoying to me because then you could only play it on the Quest, not even like the native PC version streamed or anything like that. That's interesting though. I'm sure we'll find out here in maybe the next couple weeks or a couple months.
Yeah.
The reason's gonna come out.
Yep, I think so as well. This is almost a non-story, but it's breaking as we speak. Let's say that, and
Yeah.
it would be nice to be current. Side note, um, I think I'm gonna try to publish this podcast like tonight after we're done recording this, because I don't see why not. I do not have opening or closing videos yet, which I'll want to do that at some point. But for those reasons, I should just be able to publish this to
Go
YouTube.
for it.
And yeah, the title will be about PlayStation VR. Um, all right. I think at this point you wanted to give your thoughts and impressions on the VR cover accessories that we talked about last week that you were going to be receiving.
Yeah. The first of all, the VR cover interface, facial interface. If you haven't heard about it yet and you're getting into VR now, you will hear about it. It's just that big. VR cover is just that big. But they are very, very, very nice. Very, very, very comfortable. One thing that was interesting to me, so you said that you didn't prefer the thinner face pad
Yep.
because of reasons I don't remember.
Dents on my
Um,
nose.
yeah, that's right. Dents on your nose. So I did prefer it for the first 2-ish days that I owned it. And as I owned it, it started getting smushed in more and more
You got light
until my
leakage.
eyelashes are like
Oh,
getting pressed up further and further against the lenses until I'm sitting
what
here
you?
wondering, I'm like, do I need to cut my eyelashes? Like, what is
Yes.
And then I'm like, no,
Assimilate.
I'm just gonna
Assimilate.
till my eyes are just touching the screen.
Yeah.
No, but like then I decided,
Touch.
okay, I just need to start wearing the thicker one so that it gets
Yeah.
flattened a bit so that it will be the perfect distance. And I think that that's probably the best course of action. But the VR cover, it has these vents in it. And I had a
Yeah.
problem with the original interface where when I'd first put it on, it would always fog up. The vents in that thing make it so it like never fogs up. I can put my headset on with like wet hair and it won't even fog up. It's crazy.
Whoa, wet
Um,
hair. Just like you're swimming with the dolphins.
um, so the other thing I got was that VR cover head strap, and it looks like you're about to like mummify yourself. Yeah, right there,
Yeah.
right there, right there. It, it looks like you're wrapping
Like
yourself
your head got
in
TP'd.
yeah, like you're looking up. It doesn't look that great, okay? Like, but the whole idea behind it was I can wear any headphones I want with it, and I could, it's not going to add any extra weight or anything like that. It's not going to have any bulk to it whatsoever. It's going to conform to my head perfectly, and that's it. That idea is correct. I will say that it is correct. It is also comfortable, and as you're wearing it, you almost forget you're wearing it. However, putting that thing onto the headset, putting it all together, and then figuring out how to adjust it, and then adjusting it properly to my head shape was probably like a 2 or 3 hour process. And then, and then Megan was like, "Oh, I want to try it." Well,
Oh
now I have
no.
to redo it for her head. Now, I did eventually figure it out, and for anybody who either is looking at one of these or buying one of these, one of the benefits is it's only 24 bucks, so it's pretty cheap. The other thing is if you're going to share it with people, there's the bottom strap that goes over like the that lower bump on your head, that very bottom strap. That
Yeah.
strap,
This.
you want to undo that strap and then you want to undo the top strap. And those are the only two straps that you need to undo to switch between people. And once you figure that out, it's really not that bad. Um, if your people have similar heads, you and me have very different head shapes, so I don't know if it would even work. Like I don't know if I would ever be able to share it with you. But if you're somebody who's not going to share your headset at all, or you have somebody like me and my wife, our heads are kind of similar shaped. I would say this head strap would be adequate. I think that there are probably better options out there though. But it does work for the purposes that I bought it.
I will say one of the benefits is that there's no like doohickey on the back. And
Yeah.
I know you hear the term counterweight all the time, but I'm going to be making a video comparing the Bobo VR battery head strap and non-battery head strap. And I'm starting to think that this counterweight stuff is bullcrap because really what you're doing is, yes, it's a counterweight, but it's also just more weight. So if you were to do an action like this, see how my ear cans are going back and forth. Well,
He shook
the
his head for people who are listening.
yeah, I shook my head and my Bose headphones wiggled back and forth. Um, having like another can over here does not help. What helps is that both of these Bose headphones um, are actually very light. That's that's one of the nice things about them. But I have like a Razer Kraken headset over there, and they're heavier, and so when I shake my head, it's like even worse. Pe-
I
People
experienced
say
this
that
through the
the battery on the back acts like a counterweight, but when you're turning your head quickly, which you do in VR, that's not good. That's just more inertia, right?
yeah
Inertia is the word. It's just more inertia. Now again, the Quest is it's like there's a Android chip in there. There's some weight. I get it. Um, and you have to deal with that weight somehow. You either have to deal with that weight by clamping it to your face or having like the Bobo head strap has like a forehead pad that helps with the clamping pressure, so that's good. But just adding more weight to the back, I don't know. I know people want to think that it's a counterbalance, but it's more than anything, it's inertia.
I experienced the exact same thing when I added that counterweight to the Reverb G2. And like I said, I don't
Yeah.
even think the Reverb G2 needs it, but when I put it on my head with the counterweight and I looked left and then looked right, the entire headset
Yes.
moved.
Yeah. In
Not
fact,
like just with my head, but on its own. And when
yeah.
I took the weight back off, it was firmly planted to my head again. So
When
no,
I
what you're saying is
mhm.
100% accurate.
When I do this review video on the Bobo head straps, I'm also going to try out the stock head strap again because, and I'm not the only one who has said this, but if you get that head strap tweaked just right, where the weight of the Quest and the clamping force of the Quest is shared by the back strap, and then the weight of it is supported by the top strap, and then the angle of the goggles is good, it's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that's one thing that would surprise me. When I tried on yours, I didn't know what the heck I was doing to adjust it, and I did a terrible job and I thought it was uncomfortable. When I bought mine, I was like, I got it right, and I was like, this actually isn't that bad. I could probably deal with this for, several weeks or something at least, if not long. Like if I was like strapped for cash or something, I could use that default strap for a long time. Like it wasn't that bad. It
Yeah.
really wasn't.
And the default facial interface is not terrible.
Not
Obviously, the VR cover is amazing.
Well, I don't know. When you bought yours, it came with the silicon.
Yes.
Yeah, the default foam was terrible in my opinion. After like 30 minutes, it would feel like sandpaper on my face.
Are you
Once I
talking about the
put
silicon cover or there's like a fabric foam thing?
this, no, the silicon cover that came with my Quest. I didn't know maybe there's a fabric one in the box and I haven't found it yet. No, there was a silicon cover that came with my Quest, like in the
Yes.
Oculus Quest 2 box. And I forgot about it for the first like 3 days. And I was like, man, this foam is not comfortable. And
Oh, it
then
was
I put
abrasive.
on, yeah, I put on that silicon foam or the silicon cover over the foam, and it was like night and day difference.
Okay.
It was
See,
it was a lot more comfortable.
I put on the silicon jacket, let's call it, for other reasons because my face gets oily,
Okay.
and I could just tell. I was like, oh, I bet I'm transferring face oil to this fabric foam, which is not ideal. Well, let's move on to these gun grips, which are on Etsy under the seller Hello Real. So Hello Real is a seller on Etsy, and they sell gun grips. Is it just gun grips? Huh. Anyway, what what's going on with these, Matt?
I don't know. You really need to explain these to me because I look at something like this and I think it. No offense, Hello Real, if you watch this or anything, I don't understand why somebody would buy this at all
Okay,
whatsoever.
I think I might have an answer to this in that uh, if you're playing in Pistol Whip, can you play levels with just one gun?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, in cases like that, if you're not holding the left controller and you want to wrap your hand around your right hand, then I guess this kind of makes sense because you can kind of put your finger where it would need to be if you were holding a real gun. Because you see how you have the little guard here around the trigger.
Yeah.
Is this any of this making sense? And this here, this part here, where you put your index finger.
It does, but never once have I played Pistol Whip and thought, wow, this would be so much better if my controller was the shape of a pistol. You know what I mean? And like other than Pistol Whip and maybe like Crisis Brigade or something like that, I can't think of too many games where I'm only using just a pistol. Maybe I could see these being used in Half-Life Alyx as well. Um, but even then, there's many times where you just have a hand out or you have the multi-tool or something like that. So for me, while it's an interesting idea and I'm sure that there are people that uh, it could explain to me why this would be important, for me personally, I'm already so immersed, like I don't need something like this. this isn't like a racing wheel or something like that, you know,
No.
where it's almost like it's almost a necessity, or like a HOTAS if you were playing a game that didn't have VR motion control support. But like this is, I don't know. Now
So you can add weight to it
can you
in the
cock the
form of
slide
quarters.
to reload? Because they
There's
show,
the
look, go down to the third picture below the video. Next one, next one. So can you cock the slide to like reload? Does that do anything to
That's
inputs
my
or?
question. Yeah, if does cocking the gun press a button?
Because that might be cool. Um, I could see that. I could see that making things more immersive. Uh, but you're still not slamming a magazine into a gun or anything like that. That's another thing. So like in a game like Half-Life Alyx, how do you reload your gun? You still have to have a controller in your left hand. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? The only games that I can see this working on are games where you don't need two controllers.
Yeah, the
Or
slide.
you, two controllers, but you reload by dropping your guns to your hips, like uh, Arizona Sunshine. I think uh, the new zombie game they made, that one also does it. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it just I get that people would buy it, but it kind of looks like some of those Wii accessories that a
Yeah,
lot of people just didn't buy.
which hey, there was a lot of Wii accessories, and that tells me that some people bought them. Yeah, I don't know.
But when I saw this in your note section, though,
This
I
wasn't in
added.
my note section. This was in your note section.
Was it? No,
Yeah,
no, because I saw it. You had it in like a different section of our notes. Like it wasn't in the VR. It wasn't in the episode 3 notes. It was like oh man,
the episode.
accessories. It was in accessories. Gun grips with weight. Yeah. And
Oh,
I was like, interesting. We should talk about that in
oh,
episode
that's
3
right.
because he added that there. So I put it into the episode 3. But no, the reason why I did this is because I saw these and I was like, I already, like I gave you my opinion. I just don't understand these. So I threw in my actual practical use, which is ProTube. This is something that I would actually buy. Now, this is expensive, and there are ones that you can make that aren't. But in this type of scenario, I do think you are paying for quality, because you can find ones that are cheaper and they just aren't quite as good or whatnot. So maybe this might be something I would eventually look at getting. Um, but this type of thing is actually useful. Like
Yikes.
it's going to help you keep your guns steady in games like Contractors, Onward, or Pavlov. Yeah, there you go. $134, roughly $135 American
U.S.
for what is essentially a metal tube with plastic stock. But but what this allows you to do is many different things. So these usually, I believe, come with harnesses, or you have to add. Yeah, there's like a sling that comes with it, a 1-point sling that comes with it for free, but you can get different slings. You can add like a bipod, all this stuff. Now the bipod, some people might think that's stupid. I actually think that's kind of smart.
I
If you
don't know.
play, if you play Onward, and you play a lot of sniping, something like a bipod is going to come in handy. Because if not, you're going to have to rest your, like you doing actual real life gun motions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, when I was in the military, like I used bipods a lot. Like they're very good at keeping you steady when you're prone. So no, I see something like this and I think, well, that actually has a practical use even in VR. And the other thing about ProTube, right? So you have the buttstock and all that, but you can literally just pop the controllers right out of the sockets. So if you need to reload your gun, you just pop the left controller out of the socket. If you're left-handed, pop the right controller out of the socket, reload your gun, then pop it right back into the socket. I do imagine there's some muscle memory
Whoa.
that's going to go into getting good at this,
So
but
are
that
these
is.
ball sockets like action figure?
So I know the ones that Mammoth makes, they actually have a special adapter that connects via magnets. I imagine this does something similar, but I believe that gray part actually comes off of the tube itself. So that sticks to the bottom of your controller. So when you pull your controller off, that comes off with it. If I remember right, I've seen like videos of people using these before because I was pretty curious about buying one a while back. I actually don't play as many shooting games as I used to in VR
Mm-hmm.
right now. I've been playing a lot more Beat Saber and Everslot lately,
Yeah, Everslot looks good.
but yeah,
Somebody, I think it was Mateo311, who is another great VR YouTuber, was showing off some of that game.
but yeah, something like this to me just looks more practical, more of something that you get more use out of, and you could use in a wide variety of
Look.
games.
It's a haptic. Hold on. Go back. Scroll back.
I bet you that's
Pre-
expensive.
I bet this is something that's worth.
How much is that?
I think the website's having a hard time here.
For listeners, we're looking at a kind of an additional pistol grip, so but it adds haptics, so it's like
Well,
it almost looks
if
like a
anyone's
pistol
familiar
coming
with
off your
those
gun.
with the butt stocks that have the haptic motors in it, it's like a pistol grip that has one of those.
Oh my gosh, 300 euros. That ain't cheap.
Yeah.
I bet you that'd be really cool though.
This is enthusiast stuff because they have like, this is probably a lead weight, and then they have a battery in here, and then they have probably like an electromagnetic like motor
Yeah.
that can move this weight precisely, which probably takes a lot of juice, so they need a good battery. And also even with the Pro Tube itself, you know, if it's high quality aluminum or high quality construction, then yeah, I could see how it costs a lot. This green screen that's behind me right now, I bought like photography stands to hang it up, and they're really cheap, and you can really tell. I set it up earlier, and I've handled like real photography equipment. Yeah, I don't know. It's not good. It's really sketchy. Like if I were to step, I know you can't see the green screen because of OBS, but if I were to like accidentally snag my foot on it, the whole thing would definitely come down on me.
That's what I want to see. I want to see you recording mixed reality footage of you like in a game and you
I'm like,
crash into your green screen.
I didn't tell you. I recorded some B-roll from VTOL.
No, you did tell me. You sent me a video
And I was
of
like, I'm flying.
you launching out of the cockpit of your own plane. You're literally laughing the entire time hysterically.
Yeah, I feel like a kid.
That needs to go up as like a YouTube short on the channel for sure.
Yeah, that is a TikTok. That needs to be a TikTok. And I would actually like cut out some of the dry space in between. I shudder.
Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much everything we've thrown in here.
Oh, I have some things in the notes, like some VR stories of mine.
I do have an announcement to make. I fixed the tracking on my Reverb G2.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. How much time do you have? Are you?
Nah, I'm good. I have
Okay.
plenty of time. So I fixed the tracking on my Reverb G2. So it's light-based tracking. So one of the things that's got to be perfect is your lighting, and white lighting is bad. You want yellowish lighting, so you want yellowish light bulbs. There's yellowish light bulbs already in my living room, that's fine. The white lighting coming from my kitchen was actually affecting that. So when I turned my kitchen light off, and my living room has that dial adjuster, so I can dial in the lighting, put that to full brightness, and then covered my 65-inch TV with a blanket. Because when that TV is off,
I've seen this before.
when that TV is off, it reflects the light back at the headset, and then the headset thinks the controllers are off in space.
Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
my major tracking problem with the Reverb G2 is my hands would it was almost always my right hand, and the way I stand, I'm almost always have my right side to the TV, and my right hand would almost always fly off into space. So I got that. So I covered my TV with a blanket, and all of a sudden, my tracking was great. I was playing expert songs in Beat Saber, not losing a single beat of tracking. I'm beating zombies up in Everslot, not losing tracking. And the whole thing that brought me to this idea was I play VTOL sitting in front of my computer, and I have zero tracking issues. Why can't I have zero tracking issues everywhere? So I got it working. And then I was talking to you about how I spend a majority of my time in the Quest 2.
In PC VR.
Yeah. And I really thought about it. And I really
No.
thought about it.
Yeah.
And I realized, why am I playing a majority of my time in PC games streaming to a headset when
When
I
you have a
have
proprietary.
when I have a proprietary PC headset that has higher quality visuals
Well,
and audio.
before the answer would be tracking, because we've talked about how
Yeah.
important tracking is. It's
Yes,
crucial.
absolutely.
But now that you
But
fixed it,
I fixed tracking. So my Quest 2 is still within its return window. So I'm probably gonna return it because I'll lose the least amount of money by just returning the Quest versus trying to sell the Reverb on eBay. And
yeah,
because now that I got the Reverb working, it's so nice to have 4K per eye and a
like a
virtually perfect.
native
Yeah.
4K, not like a super sampled or
No,
asynchronous space warp
it's not
4K.
just that. It's a 4K per eye. There's a panel for each eye versus like the Quest 2 having just one panel that's split between the eyes. So yeah, there's the visuals, the audio, and then even the comfort. The stock comfort of the Reverb G2 is phenomenal. It's probably the most comfortable headset I've ever worn. So now that I've got the tracking fixed, and I've mentioned before cords don't bother me, I'm
Yeah.
going to be keeping the Reverb G2 and returning the Quest. I have nothing against the Quest. I actually told a friend of mine this, and he was like, "Oh, what? So the Quest type's gone?" And I was like, "No, the Quest type is not gone. I got to try a very amazing device, and is highly recommendable to people because people who don't want to mess around, who want things to just work right away, and they maybe can't adjust their lighting or they don't have a
Yeah.
room set up just for VR or
Like a
something like
console.
that."
For
Yeah,
someone who
like
just wants to spend money on a console, hit the power button and play a
yeah,
game.
and it all just works. I think the
Yes.
Quest is great.
That's
And
awesome.
even for those people that want to tinker, but maybe they don't want to drop a bunch of money or something, the Quest works great on PC too. Like the
Hmm.
visuals aren't as crisp as the G2, but it gets really close.
It's
Like
pretty cool.
it's a fantastic
Yeah.
device and I still
For
highly
not
recommend it.
for not being a PC headset, it does a pretty good job being a PC headset.
Yeah, but I'm also going to be buying a new house soon, and one of the stipulations with between Megan and I and having a new house is that we'll have a game room. We both play PC games. It has to have a game room. That game room is going to be a game room slash VR room, and we're going to do things that make it easy to have a VR headset, set up and playable at all times. And one of those things that I'm going to do, because like the one thing that I'm going to miss the most, I think about the Quest is the wirelessness, so that the way I can achieve something similar is getting the zip. I don't know what they're called. They're almost like zip lines that come down from your ceiling to hold your
Hmm.
cable. They're like a cable management. So now your
Like a
cable
gimbal.
comes. I can't. There's an
That
actual
wouldn't be a
name for them,
gimbal. Yeah.
but basically your cable will now come down from the ceiling. And then I've also seen people like build like a strap for their headset. So when they're done with it, they leave their headset essentially hanging from the
Yeah.
ceiling by a strap. And then all you need to do to play VR is start Steam
Just
VR on your
jack into
computer
your
and then
ceiling
literally, yeah,
robot.
put pull the headset off the strap and put it over your head and you're good to go. And the cord's up and out of the way. You don't have to worry about tripping over it or anything. So I think that's going to be my next step is actually creating a game room slash VR room for that type of setup. But obviously my next step is buying a house first and then doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my announcement. Quest 2 is going back. I still think the Quest 2 is a phenomenal device. It's absolutely amazing what they've achieved on that headset. Just for my use case of playing 99% VR games, the only standalone game I was playing was Resident Evil 4. I tried Contractors and I was like, for the fact that I've played Contractors for over a
I've
year
never
on
even heard
PC,
contractors.
it's a really popular shooter. You should try it out. It's really
Hmm.
good. Between Onward, Pavlov, and Contractors. Contractors is my favorite. Um, but I played it for a year on PC, and I switched over to the Quest version, and I was like, "Nah, I don't want to be the graphics snob, but man, the graphics just they're not quite as good as what I was used to seeing. So yeah, I'm kind of a snob, I guess, with graphics a bit, and
Yeah, so
that's
am I.
another reason. That's another reason why I want to keep it.
Which, first off, I just want to say you're still my friend. Even though you're returning your quest. No, I'm
Listen,
happy. I'm glad that it like helped you pivot and figure out like troubleshoot. Because basically, here's what if you remember correctly, here's what happened is that you tried out my quest and you didn't know what to think, but then you were mulling it over and then you bought your own quest. But what happened is that you like realized what real good tracking feels like.
Yeah,
and
because I
that
forgot.
invigorated you to like put a blanket over your TV,
Yeah.
which is again, this is more silly goofball, but tracking is crucial. You
And what's
know,
funny is if the TV is on and something is playing, the tracking's fine.
that
If
makes
the TV is
sense.
off
Yeah,
and it's just black and reflecting light back,
yeah, an
that's when it's
image.
a problem. It's
Of,
it's yeah. So, yeah, I mean, once I get the VR room and everything, I can obviously have the perfect setup. I won't have like a huge TV or probably won't even have a TV in that room at all, but so yeah, that's my big announcement is I am leaving the Quest 2 space. I have no hard feelings. I love the Quest 2, and I do think it's a phenomenal device for people. But I'm a bit of a nerd, and I'm gonna stick with my more complicated and sometimes troublesome PC setup.
yeah. No, I'm glad that you came around to your first love.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of my uh past week experiences. I played the first episode of Vader Immortal, but there's really not much to say. I I played it on PC, and that's when I found out that I couldn't launch it through virtual desktop. And I did some research. People are having the same problem. I think what it comes down to is that virtual desktop can't open Oculus exclusive software, because I also had this issue with The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, because what I
Okay.
heard online is that you have to use Revive if you use or virtual desktop.
Is Revive free?
Yeah, I think so. It's like a free, it might be free. I'm pretty sure it's free, but it's like a software that you get that allows non-Oculus headsets to play Oculus exclusives. So it
Okay.
fools Oculus' store or DRM into thinking that you're using an Oculus device when you're not.
Okay. So maybe that's something that I'll look into. But I ended up using the Oculus Airlink, and I had some issues where, and this has to be happening to other people, to where some after a while it'll just start really chugging and hitching up, and where you're looking back and forth and you're getting the black bars, and also like the tracking would slow down, and the tracking would be in slow mo, so I'd have to slowly point to the quit button to get out of there because it was making me sick. I think it's a high bitrate thing, because I had the bitrate maxed out and it wasn't on dynamic. I had it on fixed. And I think that was my problem. Because eventually I remembered, oh, virtual desktop, the bitrate maxes out at 150 as far as what you can choose. So then that's when I moved the Airlink bitrate to 150. Things behaved much better after that. So I think it's a bitrate thing. I don't think it was a router thing, because I have a dedicated, nice router just for the Quest.
Interesting.
But my other big experience is Beat Saber. So I decided to buy Beat Saber on Steam for several reasons. I just really like Beat Saber.
You just
I
wanted to
know
give them more money.
I know it's like the basic, it's the basic thing. It's the killer app, and I know there's a huge cult following around synth riders, but man, Beat Saber has a really good game mechanic in slicing beats of music.
And it gets you to work up a sweat.
Oh, okay. Well, that has nothing on Synth Riders. Synth Riders is more intense.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I look at synth riders, I'm like, But then I look at Beat Sabers, and I'm like, yes. Like chopping, chopping
In
things with lightsabers. Oh yes,
in in Beat Saber, when really hard things approach you, what that usually means is that it's more advantageous to just use your wrists and not move your body that much.
that's true.
Synth Riders, you can't do that. When tricky stuff comes at you, you have to extend. And there's actually a setting, like a ratio setting, on how far notes are from you. And if you want, you can have it closer, but I've actually extended it a little bit. And then there's more lunging and squatting, I
Interesting.
think, in Synth Riders.
Maybe
Anyway,
maybe I'll have to try it out on your quest and see if I want it.
yeah. There's some good music. There's like some uh like rock heavy like Underoath stuff, like in a good way.
Interesting.
Um,
See, when I play Beat Sabers, I'm more into like techno.
sure,
I
right.
got like Calvin Harris,
Yes, yeah.
Madeon. Like, I'm using almost all custom songs at
Churches,
this point. Traverches, yes, I got
yeah.
Traverches.
Um, anyway, so I bought Beat Saber on Steam, and it was this close to being the first game that I've ever returned on Steam.
Really?
Be- yeah, because I immediately started noticing problems with it. And at first, it was blurry. And so I did some troubleshooting, and I realized that the virtual desktop had its synchronous space warp turned on, and that was making the visuals look not good.
Yeah.
So I turned that off, and that helped. And then I started messing around with the resolution because it was still blurry, as blurry as the Quest version, running native on the Quest. So I started upping the resolution in virtual desktop, and then I'd go into Beat Saber and I would up the render resolution from 1.0 up to like 1.1 or 1.2. And it looked good resolution wise, but then I was having a hard time hitting 120 frames per second. And I kept thinking, this is using my gaming PC. I should be able to hit 120 frames per second. And I still think that's the case. I did a lot of research. I found one article where somebody had determined that Beat Saber was having a hard time using the same 4 cores on your CPU. It would either bounce around with cores or it would not use all 4. So he or she described how you can force Beat Saber to use exactly 4 cores on your processor. I have not looked at that. Um, Also because he said that the update might have broke it. Not broke it, but made it not work. His fix not work. So I haven't done that. But what I did do from reading that article is I opened up the task manager and then looked at my GPU utilization while Beat Saber is running. So I turned on no fail mode. I put on a hard song with a lot of blocks, played it, and then held the headset with my thumb near the sensor so the headset would stay awake. And then I opened Task Manager and looked at the GPU utilization for that Beat Saber was using. And sure enough, Beat Saber was only using, I forget, 40 to 60%. All I know is it was nowhere near 80 or 90%. And this was another issue that people were saying online, is that some people with some PCs, Beat Saber does not utilize the GPU like it should. And so I think I'm experiencing that. So I've tried a whole bunch of things. I thought that I had it fixed by switching over to Oculus Air Link because I was doing 120 hertz on Oculus Air Link and it was playing well and it looked decent resolution wise. And I thought, oh, this must be Oculus's asynchronous space warp doing its job pretty well. Well, after looking at the debug tool, I realized no, asynchronous space warp was turned off, probably by me, the last time I used the debug tool. And when I turned the space warp on, I could see all sorts of little artifacts on the blocks as they came towards me, which no, I don't want that. And then just in more recent play sessions, I've noticed it's just not able to do 120 frames per second unless I make the game really low resolution.
Yeah.
So now I'm to the point, and I haven't tried it tonight, but now I'm to the point where it's like I should just turn it to 90 hertz and see if I can just make it look prettier than Quest 2 native. Because again, that's like my big thing is I spent another $30 on the game that I already own, right? And
Yeah.
I want to have benefits from buying it again. Of course, one of those benefits is really easy custom songs. In fact, the system I have set up for custom songs allows me to like one click on this website
Yep.
that has all the custom songs.
Yep.
One
We do it
click,
the same way.
and boom, it's installed wirelessly onto my Quest. Right?
Oh. Oh
Wait,
no, mine didn't do that. Mine was just wirelessly on desktop because I don't own I never bought the Quest version of Beat Saber, so I was just using native.
I can't
Uh,
remember if it was wired or wirelessly. I know that I was able to get custom synthwriter songs
I'm
wirelessly because
pretty
the
sure you
side
can.
quests software on PC has a new beta function which if you look at the top row of side quest it looks like Wi-Fi symbol. If you click on it, it allows your quest to connect to side quest wirelessly as if it was plugged in.
Yeah.
And that goes for anything including casting. So I tried that out and yeah, I can cast really clear video from the quest to a side quest window on my PC, and it looks
Oh.
far superior than like the browser casting or
Yeah.
the phone app casting. So I want to play around with that more. So
The one
anyway,
thing.
that's my Beat Saber story. My next step is to see how good I can make it look at 90 hertz. And I'm hoping that I'll be satisfied with 90 hertz. I think I will be. The thing that you really don't want, okay, so first off, you don't want to play VR games at 60 hertz, right? If you can help it. But what you really don't want is to drop frames.
Mm,
That's what you really don't want, especially in Beat Saber, because in Beat Saber, dropping a frame for whatever reason, it could be a bug or a a frame pacing bug. But for whatever reason, if you're dropping frames in Beat Saber, you're gonna miss blocks, probably because of the game logic or whatever. Or that's just my excuse, and I'm actually bad. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
go
it.
down to 90, and then maybe my eyeballs will be content.
No, I mean with my virtual desktop, and I believe my computer is like slightly better than yours. I know I have a better graphics card. I think our
Yeah,
CPU is probably this very similar as far as power goes. So I think everything else about our computers is about the same. But for my Beat Saber streaming through virtual desktop, Space Warp had to be off.
yeah,
I chose 80 hertz because that worked well on the Rift S, and I figured that's less that I have to stream, less that I have to compress, and then less I have to decompress. But then I put my settings on high because anything lower than high in virtual desktop added either too much blur or too much aliasing for my eyes. So I always played every game on high at that point once I figured that out.
hmm,
So 80 hertz on high, but then in Beat Saber itself, I took the super sampling and I set it to 1.2, but then I turned off all of the special effects. So bloom off, and there's like a fog effect, I turned that off, and there was another effect and I turned that one off as well. By doing that, I had consistent, like, as long as my router didn't drop anything, which it usually didn't, you could play songs, for Megan and I would pass the thing back for like an hour and a half, 2 hours playing songs without an issue. It worked great. But
hmm,
then once again, you switch to something like a Reverb G2 where I'm no longer streaming and I'm running it at 100% resolution for the Reverb G2, which is something ridiculous. It's like 3124 by 3124 per eye or something like that. It's ridiculous. Um, so I'm running it at that resolution with the settings, the super sampling. I just put 1 because at that point, like, I don't
yeah.
need to super sample. And then I put all the special effects back on as well. And so now I have better visual fidelity and, you know,
What
none of
hurts?
these issues. 90 hertz. It's a locked 90 hertz. It can't do anything more.
The reverb
Yeah.
can't. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a locked 90 hertz. So that would be 90 hertz. But I think the big thing is, and I've read people say that like compressing and decompressing, so the encoding and decoding, is done on a separate part of your graphics card and has nothing to do with the actual like rest of your graphics card that's working on the horsepower to put out graphics and stuff like that, right? I've read people say that. There
Ooh,
might be some science.
that might explain why Beat Saber was not using near 99% of my
Yeah.
GPU.
Yeah, and there might be some
Okay.
science behind that, but if that's the case, that means that at least for 20 series graphics cards, which we both have, it's not encoding and decoding fast enough, you know? And I think that could, or it's encoding and decoding, it has a limit to how fast it can do it, and the higher the graphics you are trying to do it with, the bigger a performance hit you're going to take. I'm not sure which it is yet.
Well, the resolution is definitely going to
Excuse me.
affect encoding. Because say you have a 4K frame, it's going to take longer to encode and decode
Yeah.
than a 1440p frame.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
also, I mean, just as far as like MPEG stuff works, if the image is more complex, right? Like if your frame is a white screen with a black dot in the middle of it, then your image file is going to be very small
So
compared to
basically,
yeah.
by removing effects, I was making it easier to do it, making my graphics card easier to do it.
I don't know
Maybe.
if I would say that. Yeah, maybe with the fog because the fog's a gradient. Um, I
Well,
don't want to remove those effects though. I
one of
like
the
them.
effects I turned off is the big bars of wavy bars that come at you. You can take an effect and turn off the wavy part of it, so it's just like a rectangle coming
Can
at
you
you.
do
That
that in the game?
yeah, it's in Beat Saber settings.
Is it called Shockwave?
I don't remember what the setting's called,
Because
but
that one I could turn off, but the other ones I like a lot.
I
Like the
turned it
mirror,
off, and it was really, eh.
like the
And then
smoke I really like. The light
yeah,
show, I really like the light show.
I didn't realize how
Um,
bad I liked the fog effect until I turned it back on, and I was like, oh my god, it's
yeah.
so nice to have
And
this fog.
then a lot of I've heard like two different content creators say turn the mirror off because the mirror is just a thing that you're standing on and you're not normally looking at your feet, which is true.
I find
But
it handy.
the mirror also extends out but in front of you. And the blocks are reflected in the mirror as they're coming towards you and
Oh,
it's
yeah,
really
that's a good point
pretty.
too.
And
So
again,
wait,
it's
if you turn off
well,
that mirror, do you lose your like foot thing?
no, you still see
Oh,
your little
okay,
foot icon.
okay. I was
Yeah.
thinking you would lose that for some reason, so I was like, oh, I wouldn't want to turn that off.
No, but when you look down, you'll see your sabers reflected, which again, that's dumb because you're never really looking at that. But the blocks being reflected as they come towards you, I think it's cool. I don't know. I think it's a good app. It's a good game.
Yeah, no, Beat Saber's definitely top notch. Just a little
So
hard to run.
maybe even
Streaming.
after this podcast, I'll hop on real quick and see if I'm happy with 90 hertz. But
If, if not,
my
try knocking it down to 80. See if you can pull off 80.
yeah, real quick, my experience with custom songs is I downloaded a whole bunch of Church's songs, which is the shirt I'm wearing right here. Actually, this shirt is so Beat Saber. Just you
It's
know,
like a upside down version of the triangle that's like at the
yeah,
very end of all the blocks coming out.
it's very or Synthwriters. Synthwriters is the motif is very similar. So I definitely got a whole bunch of Church's songs, and what I quickly realized is that it's you can have your favorite song in the world, but if the mapper who mapped it didn't do a good job, then it's not going to be good. So,
Yes, absolutely.
so what I found instead, in fact, I wish there was a way that in the Beat Saber menu I could delete custom songs, but I
You
can't.
can. Yes,
You
you can.
can?
Yes.
How?
There's literally a trash can icon next to the song. I can't remember if it's on the right side or like directly in front of you, but you click on the
Good.
song on the right side, it gives you
Okay.
a bunch of info, and then there's like a trash can icon somewhere in all that user interface. Um, but yeah, no, there is a way to. I highly recommend when you go to pick songs, you sort them by votes, and if you're
Yep.
searching for specific songs, pick the one with the highest votes because you're not gonna have a good time if you don't. Sometimes
Yeah.
you'll find some of these songs. I don't mean to trash anybody because I'm sure that some of these people were just like, oh yeah, this is like the first song they did or something. But like some of these songs, you'll start playing them, and the blocks won't even be to the beat. They'll be like off by like
Yeah.
a millisecond or two, but you can tell. You're like, what?
Yeah, or like the meta game, because like a song, there should be things that repeat, but not too
Mhm.
much. But they should
Yep.
repeat when they repeat in the song.
And then
Um,
they don't or something. Yeah.
but I had like 3 custom songs that were not good, but then I found like a couple songs that were really good, and like those are added to my list of songs I'm gonna try to perfect.
I highly suggest typing in Madion. It's like Madeon or something like that. It's a like they're like some type of like electronic or techno band. Yeah, Madion right there. Yep. Um, Madeon. Uh, they have killer like their songs in Beat Saber are fantastic. I love playing their songs in Beat
Oh,
Saber.
it's a mapper. Um,
No,
wait, is
I'm pretty sure Madian is actually the artist because Barely would be the mapper right here.
yes.
Madian is an actual artist because you can download them off like Apple, iTunes, and all that. Um,
So, what are you getting at? Should I be looking for this artist?
yes, look for this artist, and a lot of the tracks that people have made by that artist or like based off this artist are really, really good. Their music fits really, really good with the whole motif of Beat Saber, especially if you're really into the electronic stuff. But like Home's a good one. There's one
See,
called like
how do you
Isometric.
sort?
I actually use it as a warm up. I don't
Is there a
remember
way to
how I did
sort?
it. I don't remember if I sorted it or if I just paid attention to votes. But you use the same website I do and everything.
Yeah, this is definitely the main way to go, Medion. So, like, can I not sort? I know this website keeps wanting me to log in.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ugh, what is this all about?
They're logging. I don't know.
WP? I think WP is some sort of web site. Huh. So I should just get a whole bunch of these. One click install.
Yeah, yeah, like find the ones that have higher votes or whatnot, and just download those. But they have some really really good tunes. In fact, I much like you with the Fall of Troy and Guitar Hero, I never heard of these guys until I downloaded one of their songs on Beat Saber, and then next thing you know, I'm downloading them on
Yeah.
iTunes. So Isometric, that's actually the song I use to warm up.
Which one?
The
Oh, this one here.
isometric intro, yes, because it's like it starts off slow, speeds up, and then towards the end of the song it goes back to being slow, but it's like a really good warm up. It gets really fast in the middle too. Well, really fast for me. I'm sure that there's people who are like, "Yeah, that song's easy." I'm no expert. I can play songs on expert, but I'm no expert.
Yeah. What I'm finding is that I like good songs, obviously, but what I really like is a good mapper. Someone
Yeah.
who's thought about like what is your body going to be doing. Like one of my favorite songs is this. It comes with Beat Saber, but it's Pop Star. It's that League of Legends song, and it's just got really good mapping. Um, and like the little dance that the game forces you to do it's just fun to do.
I literally couldn't name a single song off the original Beat Saber tracks
Except $100 bills,
except $100 bills. That's like the only one I could. I've played that song so much.
$100 bills. All right. Well, let me see if there's anything else. I think that's it. I think that's all I got. So,
Yeah.
thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. Again, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I know we went off topic and we talked about other things, but I honestly like that form of podcast where, it's something that's okay to be long form or okay to just have on in the background. So I will be adding in timestamps for in the future for those who just want to jump to the news stories, which is totally understandable. But yeah, once again, we are the channel is Hats and Gloves VR on YouTube, and Seeing Eye to Eye, a virtual reality podcast on all of your favorite podcast subscriptions. And if it's not on your podcast service, you can contact me at hatsandglovesvr@gmail.com with questions or concerns. All right.
Thanks,
Matt?
everyone.
Anything else?
No, I think
All right.
we hit it for today.
Yeah, we went 2 hours and 15 minutes almost. So, but it was full of good stuff. Alrighty. We'll see you next week.
See you.